Feeling good, feeling great, feeling good. How are you? Welcome into Timeline T. I am your host, the Sam D, aka San Dusimé Jr. Tuesday. It's a lot going on today, actually. Monday was lit. We had a lot of good feedback in the chat. The chat was lit as it always is. We got a couple of new subscribers, people pulling up. Had someone pulling up from Kuwait. Okay, so, international stream, something light, something light. But yeah, as you see down here, the topic bar kind of sets the tone. It's not always where we end up. More times than not, we end up with, the three main topics, and then sometimes we veer left depending on what's going on with the chat. Sometimes it's breaking news, so on and so forth. But you see how we have it laid out. If you're clicking on, you're seeing the title of the stream, multiple quarterbacks are falling from the top of the NFL draft, allegedly. Do we believe that? Is it smoke and mirrors? There's a lot of reporting that's being done, but does it really mean factual? Do we have any real evidence that's saying this is what's gonna happen? So you see the topic bar, the Saudis, $7 billion bid. The news broke Friday. It was a classic Friday news dump. Had a little bit of updating over the weekend. And then we were able to tap in yesterday and kind of fully update the story. Put out a clip on the video channel as well. So you could catch that there if you didn't. But now there's even more reporting that there may be a reason why Daniel Snyder allegedly is sticking with the $6 billion bid as opposed to the $7 billion all cash straight homie from Brian Davis, the former Duke Blue Devil, who, if you may not know, may or may not have tried to scam his way into owning an NBA team with Christian Laettner back in the day. We will get there, but that's why it says Saudi, $7 billion bid. And then the NBA playoffs. The habitual nut hitter, as I call him on my podcast, the Sam D podcast. If you're not familiar, the link for that is in the description. But the habitual nut hitter, Draymond Green, struck again last night. Now he's stomping. He's A-Town stomping on your man Sabonis out there in Sacktown. So, we touched on the whole E40 thing. I think Boogie Down brought that up in the chat, and we were able to tap into that for a little bit. But the NBA playoffs are going on. I know we've been going heavy NFL as we should, because every day we're hearing something new, whether it's a QB signing an extension, whether it's, draft stuff, whatever. So NFL will always probably lead off this stream for over the next few weeks. But NBA playoffs are happening. Bring the Heat is pulling up. You see, I'm surprised he's not really talking that talk. He got a big game one dub the other day, so I don't know why he's not talking that talk. But if we have time, I will be hopping off the stream probably around 5:30-ish, 5:45. I have to make a run. So even if we're lit today, like super lit, like these all last week was 2+ hours and whatnot. But we cannot do 2 hours today. At least I won't be able to do 2 hours today. So hopefully y'all be able to pull up and lock in and tap in. But see, we got to bring the Heat early. Texas should wait until next draft because of how many holes they have. Why draft a QB when you're going to be bad next year and get a better prospect next draft? And that prospect is Caleb Williams. So let's be clear. So I think there is something to that, and I think that's why we have the news that we got today. So based off what Bring the Heat is saying, he's fully up to speed. He knows the deal. Let's go ahead and jump right into the screen share. So Panthers GM on shorter quarterbacks, a.k.a. Bryce Young, and their passes getting batted down at the line. When Russell Wilson came out of college, he had 3 passes batted down. Bryce had just 2. On Bryce Young's weight, Nutritionally, we can do some things, and he's also naturally going to put on weight as he ages. Russ was 206 when he came out. He's 229. He's 220 now. Guys just grow. And the GM was in Seattle when they drafted Russell Wilson. So there's a lot of comparisons, and mainly because of the height and what you may have to do to adjust your offense in terms of creating passing lanes, so on and so forth, for a QB that is not the most statuesque. He's listed at 5'10", but we were breaking down that pick with him and Mina Kimes last week. I don't know if I co-signed the 5'10" thing, but either way, he is definitely one of the shorter QBs. But, you know, when you have the acumen, when you have the resume, when you have the Heisman, people are going to buy in. And clearly, allegedly, at the top of the draft now, with all the reporting that's being done, the Panthers are looking more and more like he's going to be the guy at the top. So, with all that being said, what does this mean for the Houston Texans? What does this mean for the Indianapolis Colts at 4? What does this mean for the Arizona Cardinals, who were thought to be in a power position to leverage that number 3 pick to amass a ton of future picks, because everyone's going to want a QB. There's supposed to be 4 QBs, 1 through 4, right down the line in whatever which fashion. Now, all of a sudden, the mock drafts have changed. The mock drafts aren't hitting the way that they were just a few hours ago, just 24 hours ago. 24 hours ago, we were still sitting here like, all right, well, maybe the Texans could maybe not take a QB, but more than likely they're just going to take C.J. Stroud if it is truly Bryce Young, number 1 to the Panthers. Now we're getting reports that, oh, no. We got Will Anderson at 2 now. We got Arizona holding firm at 3 now, which means now the Colts, who were thought to have to pick between Will Levis or Anthony Richardson, could potentially stand pat at 4 and, in theory, be able to get C.J. Stroud, who is the number 1 QB on some, not all, but some draft boards. I don't know if I believe all this alleged shakeup, and I'll come off the screen here for a second because I want to get into the comments. Thank you for those who are pulling up. If you haven't been able to tap in on the like button, I appreciate you if you would. Helps this stream grow, helps to let people know that y'all are enjoying the content, hence more people pulling up and getting something out of this content. So we have Bring the Heat. The habitual nut hitter cracks me up every time. Yeah, that's one of my favorite nicknames that I have coined on the podcast. The habitual nut hitter, who is Draymond Green. I could even say it's for Chris Paul, but you know, I have other names for him. The point fraud, because he's a fraud of a point guard, and if you know his moves off the court as the head of the NBPA, you also know why he's a fraud. But you know, it is what it is. Lombardi Leap, and who won Seattle that Super Bowl? Oh, that would be the Legion of Boom. That would be the Legion of Boom. And who tricked off that second Super Bowl? Someone who had a chip on their shoulder because they're viewed as a smaller QB and wanted to shine and was tired of hearing the LOB saying that they got that first Super Bowl, which is true. So he took things into his own hands, allegedly. Let's see. Joshua's in the house. What's good, Joshua? Oh, Joshua trying to get things cracking early. Any thoughts about Arch Manning? I think he might have to wait a while at Texas. I think it's a weird choice that he went to Texas, to be quite honest with you, Joshua. Yeah, I don't think that's as much of a slam dunk as people think. I think it's an interesting choice, him going to Texas. I was a little surprised by that. So, at least with Eli, you understood he wanted to go where his pops went. You understood with Peyton carving out his own legacy, all that type of stuff. And Lord knows what the bag was, the unofficial NIL back then, allegedly. So, but with the Texas thing, I'm just not really rolling with Arch at the moment, but we'll see. Stroud would make a good Colt. Look, if the Colts could sit there at 4 and walk away with arguably the best quarterback prospect in the draft, that's a huge get. That's an absolutely huge get. And so this is where some of the new mock drafts have been taking us, right? So y'all see it here, Bryce Young to the Panthers. That seems to be a consensus, although again, there has been reporting to the contrary that it might not all be that way. Like it might not be what people are making it out to be, because there's still some people that are saying, yo, don't be surprised if it's Anthony Richardson. But again, as of right now, this is the consensus reporting in regards to Bryce Young being the choice, being the #1 QB, being the first overall pick in the upcoming 2023 NFL draft. So Bryce Young there. The Texans stand pat and take Will Anderson. Despite your man's Chris Sims saying that Will Anderson is the 5th best edge rusher in this draft, the Texans with DeMeco Ryans take Will Anderson #2 overall. Do not take a QB. Then you have the Cardinals, who were thought to be in a position of power here because everyone wants these QBs so that they can trade back, get additional collateral, so on and so forth. But they allegedly stand pat and take arguably the best offensive lineman and the best offensive tackle in this draft in Paris Johnson Jr. Then you have the Colts, who are going to be sitting here at 4 with CJ Stroud if they want, or they could go some different ways. They could also go defense. Their defense isn't that great either. They could go Tyree here. There is a potential that they could go Tyree. It's not guaranteed. So I think ultimately what you're looking at now is that teams are trying to navigate, one, how badly do teams below them want these quarterbacks? It might not be what we thought it was. The fervor to jump up into the top 3 might not be what they led us to believe it is. Because you're telling me we're, a week and change away, and you're telling me that all of a sudden CJ Stroud isn't going to be taken among the first 3 picks, when that has literally been the analysis from every single mock draft on earth for months? So what has changed from the analysis that has happened from months ago, the top of the year at the earliest, the top of the year, so from January to now, what has changed in what CJ Stroud has done that now all of a sudden he's not going to be taken amongst the first 3 picks? That doesn't sound funny to y'all? That all of a sudden, so close to the draft, CJ Stroud is falling down draft boards? Has something been unearthed? Is there new tape that has surfaced? 1-2, him and Bryce Young the entire time. Especially once the Panthers moved up. Bears don't need a quarterback, so then you have some considerations of, all right, well, maybe they'll go 2-3. Now that the Panthers, who clearly need a quarterback, and the Texans, who could use a quarterback, oh, okay, Stroud and Young, 1-2. Young and Stroud, 1-2. Now all of a sudden, 1-4? That doesn't sound shaky to y'all? That doesn't sound like, where's this reporting? Where's this information? Where's this sourcing coming from? Because it certainly seems somewhat shaky to me that we're getting this close to the draft, and we know I've been saying it. I've been checking out other people's streams. They've been saying it. This time right now is the most rumor-filled time. A lot of the stuff you hear right now probably isn't going to come to fruition a week from now, or next week Thursday. So it's kind of like, well, between now and then, how do we decipher what's real, what's smokescreen, so on and so forth? Y'all let me know if y'all really believe this scenario. Maybe not exactly like this, but the scenario of Bryce Young 1, CJ Stroud 4 Y'all let me know in the chat, what's the actual percentage chance y'all think this is going to happen? Because to me, this seems a little weird. And again, we'll be live right here on this channel the night of round one of the NFL draft. So if you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe so that y'all be locked in when we get going that night. Because, you know, we've been talking about this draft pretty much every day. Every day, Monday to Friday, we've had some kind of draft update. So we have all, as a community, have been locked in on this draft. So to finish it off, there's no better way that I think to do it than we just gonna be here live. What is it, like a four-hour extravaganza, you know, night one, round one of the upcoming draft. So make sure you tap in. I'll get back to the chat. Let's see what we got. Lombardi, if I'm fitter, I'd avoid the shorter QB. Yeah, it's a little weird. It really is a little weird that I understand Young's skill set. There's no doubting it. He definitely has the skill set and the acumen and, you know, the resume of someone who should go number one overall. I just don't feel like he's the number one pick to me. Joshua is bringing up Lamar. So we're already getting to Lamar. I thought Lamar was short, but at least he could play. Bring the heat. Lamar Jackson is at least 6'2" and is 230 pounds. Joshua, Texas is interesting school. This is about Arch Manning. Texas is an interesting school, but I see him switching schools to quarterbacks in this year's draft. I am not sure if they are plug-and-play players. If I were Baltimore, I would keep an eye out on him. Eye out on Arch Manning. That's, well, if Lamar is on that Kirk Cousins plan and he's just going to do the franchise tag this season and next season, no, Arch still wouldn't be available. So I don't know. I don't know about that one. Unless you're going to tank, that year after Lamar leaves to set yourself up for Arch. Let's see. Lombardi. I think the Texans want more draft capital because their roster is just so bad overall. It needs a lot of talent. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's why I'm. But here's the thing, right? If they trade down, they had the pick at 12, right? We see that here. They had the pick at 12. They have more draft capital in the second round as well. I'm fine with them staying at 2. I'm just not sure, one, if you take a quarterback there, and 2, if you don't go quarterback there, are we sure Will Anderson is that guy? I think there's some legit questions about him. Again, only in regards to him off the edge. He's a phenomenal football player. I'm just not sure if edge is the spot for him, in my opinion. Joshua, if Baltimore goes defense in the first round this year, I am not sure if I will watch any Ravens games this year. I mean, you have to see Lamar with the new offense. I don't think they go defense. I would hope. Now, if it breaks like this, they could have whatever they pick of offensive weapons, right? Because you could go wide receiver with Addison. Or I don't even see, is Quentin? Quentin's not even on this first round. Okay, so Quentin Johnston isn't even on here. So according to this, Quentin Johnston isn't getting the first. It won't be drafted in the first round. We've seen that alternate throughout. But, you know, they'll have their pick. Jordan Addison, I mean, hell, depending on how JK looks or how they feel about JK, they could be in the Bijan mix. I would have put it past anything for the Ravens. And I appreciate the likes as people pull up. I do appreciate that. Thank you so much. I think in regards to the Ravens at 22, and you know, I had a video drop, a clip from a live stream from last week where it said the number 22 pick will let us know what type of time the Ravens are. The 22nd pick will inform us of what they think this offense is going to look like. If they go defense with the 22nd pick, to me, that would send a signal that they think they're set on offense. I think that's problematic as hell, and I feel they should not feel that way. But if they do go defense with the 22nd pick, that would tell me they feel good with what they got. Now, we all think they should not feel good about what they got, but that's not up to us. If I'm there at 22 and Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnston, and even Bijan is still there, even though you got J.K. Dobbins, if Bijan is there at 22, you have to consider that. Jordan Addison, I'm more of a Quentin Johnston guy, but if Johnston's off the board, which on this mock draft he isn't, but just in the sense of adding a weapon, you know, because this mock draft has 2 tight ends going. Y'all told me the other day that tight ends aren't worth first round picks. They got 3 tight ends going in this mock draft, 3 tight ends in the first round. So y'all let me know what's going on, because you know y'all try to run me off my own stream telling me how tight ends are not worth first round picks. But somehow, some way, within a couple days later, here's 3 tight ends going in the first round. And, you know, we're fully aware, or at least I've been telling y'all, that Monken, the new OC for Baltimore, is very much in favor of multiple tight end sets. Y'all have been telling me about Likely, who they drafted in the 4th round. I'm saying as good as Likely may be, if you have a first round talent at tight end to pair him with Mark Andrews, Likely might be the odd man out there, at least be 3rd string. Because if you could get Michael Mayer, I would rather put him in a two tight end set rather than y'all man's Likely. Even though I will admit I don't know that much about Likely at all. Y'all had to put me on to him. So I don't know, but there should be an offensive weapon available at 22 for the Baltimore Ravens. If they do not decide to do it, that should give us a good idea of what type of time they're planning to be on in terms of they think they're good. They already said, allegedly, through back channels, they're out on DeAndre Hopkins. They made the deal for Odell. I don't see any other wide receiver being available that can slide in there and be a compliment outside of a draft pick. So in theory, this is what they have at 22. That will tell us if they think they're good on offense or not. Let's see. Alex is here. How you doing, Alex? I think this is smoke to get people to watch the draft. Well, that's the deal every year, right? That's why we get all the rumors every year. That's exactly why we get all the tea, all the mock drafts. I mean, this is the NFL draft has become a TV event first. It's not really about anything else. It's about how can we market this. That's why they're splitting this thing up. Remember, this thing used to be a weekend marathon. I remember I used to go to the draft when I was a teenager at the Garden. They used to have it at Madison Square Garden. I used to go to the draft. Go there all day Saturday for the first, 3 rounds? And then rounds 4 through 7 would be Sunday. Now they're splitting this thing up and they're making it primetime television. Thursday night, boom, 4 hours, 1 round. It's like, goddamn, like, yeah, this is what it's turned into. It is a made-for-TV event. And because media and sports media specifically, it's all about impressions, aggregation, click-through rates, retweets, hearts. You got to just find any piece of information and just flood the internet streets with it. Because people like us are looking for information. So there's all types of websites, all types of influencers, all types of analysts and experts that are just throwing stuff out there. And that's what I try to do here with this stream, is try to decipher all of that stuff and put together enough of it that I feel is relevant and stuff that I think y'all would be interested in knowing about, and put it together. Like, this is me trying to work against just, let's just create something just so we could get people to watch. Like, no, let's find some good information, some valuable information, and let's see how we can, build and communicate with it. Joshua, Manning will be around in 2026. I will be patient and work towards drafting a Manning if he is any good. I mean, well, at least Well, I have my thoughts on Eli. I think he's a fraud Hall of Famer, but he'll get in. So he'll have 2 Mannings in the Hall of Fame. Well, 3 actually with Archie. But, you know, I think Arch will be okay. The good thing about him is that he's the most athletic Manning because it's Cooper's son. So I think he's good there. He has good stock there. So the fact that he's the most athletic Manning and he's a quarterback is kind of the best of both worlds, because they all say Cooper was the best athlete amongst all of them. So you take his athletic stock with being trained up by Archie, Peyton, and Eli as a quarterback, should be lights out. But the Texas choice just was peculiar to me. Boogie Down in the chat was good. Boogie Down. Ravens need to go after Quentin Johnston. Need a big, rangy target for Lamar. I agree. I think Quentin Johnston, you know, I know a lot of people favor Jordan Addison, and I'm not saying he's not him. I just think to exactly what Boogie Down is saying is that the size of Quentin Johnston, it creates a bigger radius. You know, he could go up at the point of attack and go get the rock. I just like physically how he plays the position. He's not immune to be locked. I don't know if Corey's in here, but Corey loves to bring up how he got locked. And I'm like, well, that happens. Every good receiver, even Jerry Rice, has been locked. Like, nobody's exempt. Randy Moss has been locked. Like, I'm not going to go crazy because there's tape of him being locked once. Joshua, still drafting defense in the first round would make Baltimore look like they are not intelligent. I wouldn't go that far. I think it would just let us know that they think they're good on offense, that they're set. Now, if you think that's not intelligent, like that particular piece, then okay, I'm rolling with that. Alex, when Saban and Sarkisian were basically in a bidding war for him, that told me all I needed to know, not just watching this high school tape. Yeah, I mean, I just wonder what the bag was. I think it's interesting that he did choose Sarkisian, who to me, I would not. I mean, look at all the talent Texas has put out. Just off the guys that are due to come out this year. I mean, granted, they're not his recruits. But what, they 8-5 last year? I don't know if I would have entrusted, you know, Archie fought like hell to make sure Eli didn't go to San Diego all them years ago when he was coming out in the draft. I wonder if he fought or had a opinion on Saban versus Sarkisian. Oh, Corey is in here, and he'll take Addison. So he is not a Quentin Johnston guy because he saw Quentin Johnston get locked up one time. So he'll take Addison because he hasn't found tape of Addison being locked yet. Lombardi is not sold on Addison. Joshua, I favor Quentin Johnston and Bijan Robinson myself. Yeah, I think that the Bijan falling thing is crazy to me. The Bijan thing is really, I just don't get it. Like, I understand running backs are being devalued as a whole, right? That doesn't mean you take someone with his skill set and just diminish it. What it means is you're not going to take you're not going to get 5 running backs in the first round. But that doesn't mean the best running back should be tumbling and barely making it in the first round, like 27th. We're going to allow Josh Allen to get that. We're going to allow Stephon Diggs to get that weapon. Sometimes, like, again, I don't want to treat it like it's Madden, but it's like sometimes you just play keep away. Like, you know what? I'm going to take this guy. I'm going to take Bijan because I don't want these good-ass teams to get him. And if you're the Ravens at 22, let's say they don't want to do a tight end. Let's say they don't want to do a wide receiver. It would be hard for me to look at Bijan sitting there and be like, well, we got JK, we're good. Because you need 2 of everything. You need 2 of everything in this league. You need 2 of everything. You need 2 running backs. You need like 4 receivers, 4 receivers. You need 2 tight ends. Like, you can't just sit here and just say, all right, we got JK. He was hobbling around at the end of last year. I mean, he was still, doing, getting it done. But I mean, I wouldn't put my stock 100%. And I think Bijan is that good that even if you do have a J.K. Dobbins, that you still take Bijan, because a talent like that, you can make that work. You just brought in Monken, who likes multiple, formations and creative formations. I would give him all the weapons I could to let him go in the lab and cook up. Lombardi saying CJ Stroud to go 1 or 4. Well, if we're to believe all the smoke from the blue check boys and girls, it's looking like he's going 1. Look like he's going 4. With Bryce Young allegedly locked in at 1, it's looking like CJ Stroud will either be a cult or mysteriously, if the Colts, trade back, highly unlikely, maybe somebody else overwhelms them with an offer. But it's looking more and more, if we're to believe the information that's dropped today, which again, this information is different than what we got last week, which was different from the information we got 2 weeks ago, and so on and so on. But as of today, right now, Bryce Young will be the pick for the Carolina Panthers, and CJ Stroud will not go 2nd or 3rd because, in theory, the Texans don't have to take a quarterback at the 2nd spot, and the Cardinals got Kyler Murray and all that money that they just paid him. So they're out on QBs unless, again, they trade out, but it seems to be more and more unlikely, allegedly. So that leaves the Colts at 4. Being able to scoop up the 2nd best QB prospect when we were talking just last week that the first 4 picks could be all quarterbacks. Okay, Alex has a theory. Texas is going to be joining the SEC. That's the only reason Arch is going to Texas. But Texas and the SEC, they could they're 8-5 in the Big 12. So he's doing that because he thinks he can compete? You're 8-5 in the Big 12. I'm afraid to know what that record would be in the SEC. Joshua, Stroud will fall. Just a random guess. Stroud will fall how far, though? You're saying he's going to fall past 4, Joshua? That's a take. If you want to get that off the ground, that's a take. But let's see. Welcome to HD. What's good, man? I was able to check out one of your streams last night. Good shit. What you think about Zay Flowers? And salute him at work, but watch it. Salute. Zay Flowers. Look, we've seen mock drafts with Zay in the first round. We've seen mock drafts with Zay in the second round. I would have him as the 3rd or 4th receiver on my board. Obviously, you have Smith and Jigba 1. In my opinion of what I think a receiver should be, I have Quentin Johnston at 2. And then at that point, to me, it's between Addison and Zay for that 3-4. I don't really care which way you take it. So, Zay could be in contention for the first round. There was a mock draft we had last week that had like five wide receivers in the first round. So, it's kind of wild how last week it was a whole bunch of receivers. This week, there's only 2 receivers. Y'all yelled at me for saying that there should be that Mayer should be drafted in the first round. Now we're looking at mock drafts where there's 3 tight ends in the first round. So, it's very fluid. You could just say that. All this draft stuff, the draft news and the draft analysis and mock drafts is very fluid. Joshua, true. I would not draft. You would not draft Zay Flowers in the 3rd round? Who said that they would? And Zay won't be there. That's one thing, but okay. Not sure what happened there. Let's see. Alex Richardson doesn't go to Tampa. because I do not see him fitting in a Todd Bowles offense. I think this is just something to shake things up because here's the thing, right? The biggest loser in this, if this is true, is clearly Anthony Richardson. There was a dream scenario where he could go 1. Then there was the likely scenario of him potentially going 4. But if the Texans and the Cardinals either stand pat or don't trade out, or if they do trade out to teams who don't take quarterbacks, he's going to tumble. Because even if this plays out, right, it's interesting because if you look at this mock draft, and again, this is just one mock draft. I can pull up the one. Let me come off the screen for a second. I could pull up the one that we've been using, the Tankathon one. I believe they did another update. Let's see. Yeah, 24 hours ago. So they did an update to their mock draft. So let me put these two together. Where we at there, and we have that one there. Okay, so let's go to the one we've been using, right? They still have Anthony Richardson at 4. So maybe they don't have people up to speed on their website, but this is where we thought was going to be a nice landing spot for him because we were still under the impression that the Texans would take CJ Stroud or whatever, however you want to invert this or whatever, at 2. But now with that not being the case and Will Anderson going 2, as we have in this mock draft, and then we have Paris Johnson Jr. going 3, as opposed to this draft where he was going to go to 9 to the Bears. That certainly shake things up. So the top O lineman on the board was thought to be going top 10, maybe in the teens. Now, if everyone holds pat and the Cardinals don't trade out, now the top offensive tackle goes 3rd instead of top 10. Now that pushes CJ to 4. So arguably the best or second best QB prospect is now going 4th, which means Anthony Richardson now begins to tumble. Because as you see here, this has Will Levis going 7. As you see over here now with the updated information, we don't even see Will Levis going in the 1st round. Okay? Will Levis is not even on here. Let me make sure we scroll up a little bit so we can just try to fit everything right there. Will Levis isn't even on here. So with this updated mock draft, Will Levis is no longer on the board. So now you have Anthony Richardson starting to tumble. Because once the Colts take their QB at 4, who's going to take a QB? The Raiders, we all know, need a QB, but would you rather get Witherspoon or take Will Levis? Would you rather go Witherspoon or go take a project in Anthony Richardson when you don't have a Jim Caldwell in the tuck to fix him? The Falcons had let it be known they out here with Desmond Ridder, even though he just started 4 games at the end of last year. They're not going to do it. Bears have their quarterback. The Eagles just paid Hurts a hell of a lot of money. Now, this 11 spot with Tennessee, and I'll be on ESPN Radio tomorrow afternoon, what time? 1 p.m. Eastern time on ESPN Radio in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I'm sure we'll be talking heavy Titans and what they want to do with this 11 pick. Last week, they were telling me they're trying to move up from 11 to 3. The Cardinals pick was the magic destination for the Tennessee Titans. Now, with maybe the asking price is too high, or maybe the Titans with a rookie GM, home team, isn't really trying to mortgage everything because he's got a lot of big contracts coming off the board after this upcoming year. Maybe they don't want to get in the mix and give up everything. So maybe there's no movement. Maybe the Cardinals are standing pat because their asking price is too high, or people aren't willing to leverage to jump up that high for a CJ Stroud or a Will Levis or even an Anthony Richardson. So now the Titans stand pat and just take what many believe is the second best offensive lineman, non-tackle, in this draft in Skoronski. Then you have the Texans with their second pick of the first round. And again, we talked about last week of them having Stroud and JSN. Now Will Anderson and JSN still hits the same to me. So that's how all of this stuff gets to maneuver. And again, get another mock draft that has the Patriots taking Joey Porter Jr. Y'all, we need to mark this when we are on that live stream that next Thursday night. We have yet to find a credible mock draft that doesn't have the Patriots taking Joey Porter Jr. It would be classic Belichick to let everyone think he's taking Joey Porter Jr. and then he switches things up and takes somebody at 14. Somebody else at 14. Let's go to Boogie Down. Zay Flowers is too small and has hand issues. Ravens already had to go through a small frame receiver with Hollywood. Dude couldn't beat press coverage to save his life. Okay, I mean, Zay certainly has his flaws, without a doubt. There's a lot of people that think that this wide receiver draft is very deep. I don't know if I'm co-signing that, but there's certainly gonna be a lot of options. So even if you wait on, well, I don't think the Ravens don't have a second round pick, right? They only have a first and a third. But if you need a receiver and you don't take them, like if they don't take them at 22, I don't know who's going to be left by the time they come back around. I believe at pick 86 in the third round. I don't know who's going to be left at that point. And Corey always wants to be told that he's right. So CJ Stroud talk is calming down, but you know, Corey's crazy. No, it's just, I'm tired of trying to keep up with all the various conflicting reporting. There's just reporting that said otherwise just a week ago. And I'm sure a week from today, next Tuesday, we're going to have a different report that comes flying in out of nowhere. Nothing too HD. I can't see CJ Stroud going 4, but I've seen dumbness in plenty of drafts. Yeah. So where do you think CJ Stroud should go then? If you don't think he should go 4, where do you think he should go? Are you saying he should be going higher? He should be over Bryce? Or are you saying he should be going lower? Lombardi, who is part owner of the Green Bay Packers, so put some respect on his name. I would love JSN as a Packer. I bet you would. I bet you would. He's trying to give Jordan Love all the help he could get. I bet you would. Yeah, you see it. Praying to the football gods for JSN. Alexandra, hope you're feeling better. I think the Texans do take a QB. They need it. But here's the thing, Alexandra. Like, they definitely do need it, right? Hard stop. Unfortunately, they have D'Amico Ryans, and I think he would prefer to build his cornerstone around Will Anderson than assuming CJ Stroud or Bryce Young if there's a last-minute switch or whatever the hell happens. So I think if I'm D'Amico Ryans, I want to start off my tenure. If you're really handing me the keys and quasi-autonomy, I need... And, well, me personally, I would still be looking at Jalen Carter. But if I have the second pick and I'm going defense and I'm D'Amico Ryans, I'm looking at Jalen Carter. But I understand why people are not looking at Jalen Carter that high. I get it. But in terms of game wreckingness and game changing and game dominating, I would still go Jalen Carter. But anyway, we're off that. So Will Anderson, I think, is the next best option if you really believe he has the skill set to translate to an actual edge rusher at this level. I think Tyree is a safer pick as an edge rusher. And I think Luke Van Ness is a really interesting prospect. But I guess if you want to go for it, is Will Anderson at edge a project similar to Anthony Richardson as a QB project? Y'all let me know in the chat. Joshua, the reason why I favor Bijan Robinson is because he is an offensive weapon. Lamar said he wanted Derrick Henry. So why not grab the best rushing weapon? He's an offensive weapon. Yeah, I don't know if Lamar still wants Derrick Henry. He shouldn't if he was him. But I think Bijan is a more dynamic weapon. I think he would enjoy having Bijan in the backfield rather than Derrick Henry at this point. But either way, the point is made. They need to add more weapons to this offense. So at 22, they should. That will be when this stream goes really crazy next week, Thursday night. Next week, Thursday night, if the Ravens go defense at 22, I think this stream will literally explode. I think this stream will like literally explode, and people will be losing their minds in the chat. Alex also, I think he thinks he could compete, especially with the recruiting class that Texas has been doing. Okay, yeah, I mean Sark could always recruit. I think the problem is Sark is coaching. I think that's my issue with Sark. Sark can always recruit. All right, some Texans talk. Wow. Joshua saying they see the Texans grab Stroud at 12. I think there's no chance Stroud is still there at 12. That would be a hell of a scenario. That would be a really big fall. That would be a major fall. Like, because now you're saying the Colts pass on him. So if the Colts pass on him, what the hell are the Colts doing at 4? Why wouldn't the Colts take a quarterback at 4? That would really shake things up. I'm not mad at it. I told y'all, I'm here for chaos. Because chaos would have this chat and me going crazy. So that equals, running the numbers up. It'll be very entertaining. So Stroud openly said that he would not play for the Bears, so why would he play for Atlanta or the Raiders? The Texans are patient and grab Stroud. But why would the Colts not do it? That's the only deterrent to your point. I don't have an issue with anything you're saying, but why would the Colts not take Stroud? And if they're not taking Stroud, then what are they doing at 4? Alex, I will highly disagree that Levis doesn't go first round. He has the grade to go in the first round. Yeah, he does. But it's like after a certain point, which one of these teams would take him? Like, let's even put Stroud out there. Let's play with Joshua's assumption, right? Let's say the Colts don't take Stroud at 4. Now who's taking him? Do the Raiders take him at 7? Even though Joshua is saying that he wouldn't play for them? Why wouldn't the Titans take CJ Stroud? Because again, he could talk tough, like, I'm not going to play for them. Like, you ain't Eli Manning, bruh. You can talk that talk. Like, you want to sit this out and come back and be the second QB behind Caleb Williams next year? Have a blast. And that's why the draft should be abolished. But since this is the current system, nah, bro, you're gonna have to play for who drafts you. You're going to get drafted by somebody. You want to hold out, you want to, do the whole player empowerment like you think you're in the NBA? Good luck. You see how they're treating Lamar, right? Eric Reed still hasn't played another down in this league, okay? Where's Kerry Rhodes? If you know, you know. Let's see. Joshua Zay Flowers is 5'9", and that is the height of a special teams receiver. Baltimore does not have a second round pick. So so they got pick 86 in the third round. So then you're saying Zay Flowers is still going to be there in the third round? I don't know if he's still going to be there, Joshua. If he's there, then that's worth the conversation, but I just don't see Zay going through 80 picks or like what? 60 something picks and still be in there. Just the fact that he makes it to the third round would be like, wow. And then having to get to pick 86 for the Ravens. Alex says Titans with Levis might be a good spot. They certainly want a quarterback. But if the Colts don't take CJ, because here's the thing, Joshua, to kind of go against your theory of CJ Stroud at 12, why would the Titans allow that to happen? If the Titans pick right before the Texans at 12, why would the Titans let CJ Stroud fall to the Titans? We see division foes do this type of stuff all the time. Why would the Titans just allow the Texans to be able to get CJ Stroud when they had QB needs of their own? Ryan Tannehill's on the last year of his deal. They're not going to re-sign him. We saw what Malik Willis was. We good off that, right? So why wouldn't they go at 11 with CJ Stroud? Lombardi, I can see the Titans drafting a quarterback, but I did just read a report that said that they called the Packers. So if they're doing that, that means they're trying to trade back. Interesting. I think the reason why we're not going to get all these QBs at the top is apparently the Cardinals must be asking for the moon, because the 3 spot was the spot. So they must be asking for the moon, and teams don't want to give up all their collateral to get to that 3 spot. Because we have known that the Texans might not take a QB here. So 3 became the spot. But now that everyone's saying that we don't think we're going to get the string of 4 straight QBs to open the draft, then that means the 3rd spot isn't going to get traded. Why wouldn't the 3rd spot not get traded? Because the Cardinals are probably asking for too much. Now, remember, it's a whole new front office. Okay, it's a whole new front office. So who knows what they're trying to go in there and do. It's a new regime in theory, even though the owner is still the same. It's a new regime in theory under him. So who knows what type of time they're on right now. Joshua, very much just trying to help the Ravens in every way imaginable. I can see Baltimore possibly going for Richardson. Most likely he will go 2nd round. I don't see that. I don't see Richardson falling around 2. I mean, look, all this shit is possible, right? But I don't see Richardson falling to 2. If he's at the bottom of the 1st round, someone with a lot of picks in the 2nd round is going to flip up to go get him. I would put stock on that. Like if you're... Let's see. If you're Seattle, and remember, Seattle has 2 picks. Where in the Seattle's 2nd round? Well, what's their 2nd round picks looking like? They got the Denver pick, and do they have their own? They got 2 picks in the 2nd round. Okay. Seattle, in theory, let's say Anthony Richardson is floating down here at the bottom. He's not picked yet. These teams, well, maybe the Cardinals, maybe the Vikings, but we'll let that go. None of these teams are taking quarterbacks unless you think the Saints might do it at 29. In theory, none of these teams are taking quarterbacks. If that's the case, and yes, I know Derek Carr is there, but still, they could leverage those 2 picks they have in the 2nd round to move back up to the bottom of the 1st round. And Pete Carroll's been on record saying that they're not afraid to take a quarterback high in this draft. He could sit behind Geno. They could work on his mechanics and his accuracy. And now they have a plan in place, a succession plan for when they have to move on from Geno. Lombardi, I don't trust Ohio State QBs, but I don't trust shorter QBs more. Yeah, it's a tough spot. That's what I'm saying. Like, I wouldn't be mad if teams tanked and said, I'll spin the block and try to get Caleb next year. Welcome to 2HD. CJ Stroud should be going to the Texans from watching them last year. All they need is a QB. Okay. So that's why he was saying that he shouldn't go 4 because he thinks they should go higher. He should be the second. He should be the second pick. Yes, Alex, exactly. Like that one year that Tampa took Vita Vea. Yeah, but Joshua, you're still not telling me what are the Colts doing at 4? And if D'Amico doesn't want QB, yes, I agree. Go Jalen Carter. Yeah, Jalen Carter is. I mean, look, I know the pro days. He stunk up the joint allegedly. I think there's a lot of grief that he's dealing with because of that incident that involved the deaths of 2 people, where you could say he was directly responsible for, or at least heavily responsible for. So he could be changed in many different ways. But if you can get his head right, pause, he's a monster. He's an absolute game breaker, line shifter. Like yeah. I'm pro D-line all day, more so tackles than edge rushers. But for me, if this stuff with Jalen Carter didn't happen, if that incident didn't happen, which I believe played a part in the lethargic pro day, I think it would be a no-brainer with him at 2. No-brainer. Joshua, Baltimore still talking to Richardson. I mean, if they take him at 22, that would certainly bring a lot of buzz. He won't be there at 86. I know that. Yeah, Boogie Down. I was curious about this, but y'all are my Ravens people. So I don't know when Lamar Jackson said he wanted Derrick Henry, but Joshua put it out there. So I'm gonna let y'all deal with that in the chat. I never heard that. But I'm not locked in on Ravens 24/7 like y'all. So, and yes, but Boogie Down, I will be live streaming night 1. We will be doing a watch along right here on this channel. So we'll be live streaming, keeping up with all the picks and all that stuff, reacting live in real time. So yes, we will be here that next Thursday. Yeah, next Thursday night, we will be here. Welcome to HD. Anderson is a project to me. Doesn't jump off my screen. Hey, look, I'm glad I finally got someone to kind of see what I'm saying. Like, I just don't know about him off the edge like that. Like, he's definitely a special player. I just don't know if it's at edge. Bijan is a dog. If he is there, Ravens better take him. Yeah, I mean, anybody. I mean, to keep it a buck, like how many teams in this draft couldn't use Bijan Robinson? Let's be generous and let's move off the top 10. At 11, we've heard the rumors of them trying to trade Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's contract is coming up. They're probably not going to pay that man. They could use Bijan Robinson. Texans, they got Pierce. Probably don't do it. Although, again, I think you need 2 running backs to win today, but, it is what it is. The Jets probably the only team because they got so many damn good running backs already, but you saw what happened once every single one of them got hurt. So maybe just for depth standpoint, they could take you could make a case for Bijan. The Patriots, for Bijan's sake, I wouldn't want him to go there, but the Patriots could certainly use him. The Packers, you can argue they don't need him. But Lombardi, let me know the status of the contract status of Jones and Dillon. Isn't one of them coming up? Washington, Brian Robinson looked good. And I think Gibson has been kind of relegated to a third down back. He might want his way out of there soon, so you might need someone to work off Brian Robinson. Steelers, you could probably argue they don't need it, but again, they really just have one running back. Lions just gave a lot of money to David Montgomery, but again, I could argue Bijan Robinson will be more dynamic than David Montgomery is right now. The Bucs absolutely need Bijan Robinson. You could argue for Seattle because all their running backs always get hurt every year. The Chargers, they have Austin Eckler wanting out and wanting his bread, so you might let him play out his contract, and they'll need a backup for him to take over. Bijan could be that. Ravens, enough said. JK was howling around out there when he finally came back. The Vikings, Dalvin Cook wants out, allegedly. Could be even straight up outright released. And Matheson is, he's a good replacement, but Bijan is more dynamic. Jaguars with Etienne. Are we going to assume Etienne's never going to get hurt? Giants, they got Saquon on a franchise tag that he hasn't signed yet. Dallas, I mean, they're trying to spin the block on Zeke. That tells you everything you need to know. The Bills, Devin Singletary, I'm not sold. Cook, I'm not sold. Bengals, they lost P. Ryan and Mixon was out here wowing, allegedly. Saints, Kamara, I mean, how many years are left on that tread? Eagles, they just lost Miles Sanders. Yes, they brought back Boston Scott and all that, but Bijan would look real nice in that offense with Jalen Hurts for the next 5 years. And then Kansas City, I mean, it's been boom or bust with them. Edwards-Helaire allegedly looks to be a bust. Why not swing for the fences again and try to give, another weapon to Patrick Mahomes? So there's a case for literally every team to take Bijan. Alexandra, I could imagine a situation where Bill Belichick lets everyone think he's taking Joey Porter Jr. and he grabs Will Levis because he is like Josh Allen and he was shopping Mac Jones around. Yeah, that's fair. And that's the thing. Like, I truly want someone, someone in this chat. Can you find me a legit mock draft by someone that's credible? And again, we use credible loosely, but someone that has credibility in theory that doesn't have Porter Jr. going to the Patriots. Will Levis is overrated. Okay. I think it depends on where he goes. I think it just depends on where he goes to consider whether he's overrated. Is he overrated in terms of he's not worth a first round grade? I can't say if I'm rolling with that, but Alex bringing up the completion percentage over Richardson. That is true. We have the numbers. We've been running them down. Richardson's completion percentage is, let me make sure I get this to work on the fly. It would be nice if it works one time. Yes, it does. 53.8 for Anthony Richardson, whereas Will Levis, 65.4. Oh, Lombardi. Okay. Titans called Packers about Rodgers. Oh, boy. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that bad. Look, I haven't heard anything otherwise in regards to Jets Packers. I think that deal is going down on draft day. I don't think nothing changes with that. So Josh was talking about Stroud again. Stroud said he went. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. You could say that about the Bears because, the whole Ohio State thing with him and Justin Fields. So I get that, but I don't think that carries over to all the other teams. Like, what's the tie for the for the Raiders? And here's Bring the Heat saying the same thing. Charles said no to the Bears because they are friends and both from Ohio State. Yep. It's hard to tell. The Colts seem to be trying to keep a poker face. I mean, that's the last thing your man's Jim Irsay has. I mean, I think it would be silly for them to have all this and just sit at 4 and not take a quarterback. Sure, they have other needs. I wouldn't be mad if they went Jalen Carter here. But in regards to anything else, like I don't know why they wouldn't take a quarterback there. Unless they plan to stink up the joint next year. Like if you plan to stink up the joint next year and go for Caleb, okay. Joshua Henry and Hopkins seem to be in discussion as if it were demand, but then again, the media seems. Well, the only one we've gotten actual reporting on that I'm aware of is the Hopkins one. I did not see any reporting, at least since I've been doing this stream, and that's been a couple months now. So ever since Timeline TS started, since the end of February, I haven't seen anything in regards to a demand from Lamar or from anyone in this camp saying that they need to go get Derrick Henry. HD, Anthony Richardson and Will Levis are overrated. They're project players, shouldn't be in the first round. But here's the thing with that. I don't know about Anthony Richardson not in the first round. But in regards to project, yes. Will Levis, though, there's been a lot of push, and we talked about it here on the stream last week, where there's a lot of people in these front offices that think that Will Levis, because of the pro-style offense that they ran at Kentucky, which is very similar to the McVay offense with the Rams, because of that, they feel his acumen, like he's the most ready of all these quarterbacks. One alleged executive said he's the most ready to start week 1 because he's worked in a pro-style offense with, long play calls, with, three check plays on every play, 3 checks on every play, so on and so forth. So, we certainly don't have the same opinion of these alleged experts. And I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying, if they're going to sell the narrative, that's the narrative they're selling. Lombardi. Jones took a pay cut and let's look at this season. Okay. Packers won't draft a first round running back because they are successful at finding running backs in later rounds. Okay. All right. HD, Tennessee, but to make that happen with Robinson. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if they can. It's going to be interesting to see if they can. Joshua, I just want Quinn Johnston on the Ravens, plain and simple. Well, I'm here for you. If you're saying that, if that's all this has come down to, I'm here for that, and I think he'll be available. I just can't promise you they're going to take him. Oh, man. HD, dog, Mahomes and Bijan, or Hurts and Bijan, or Lamar and Bijan. Yo, facts, though. Like, if Bijan is there at the bottom of the first round, it would not shock me if the Chiefs are like, you know what? We're going to leverage. Let's see. Do they have multiple picks? Let's see. Do they have any additional picks? No. Well, let's see. No, the Chiefs don't have any extra collateral. I mean, shit, they might be willing to give up a first next year because they know it's going to be low anyway. They know that shit going to be low anyway. So why not give up a future first to move back up to the bottom of the first round? Leverage your second, leverage pick 65, and see if you can flip back up to wherever to scoop up Bijan. If you're the Chiefs, would you give up your second, a first next year, and your first, so again, in a pick swap to move up to like, let's say, assuming Bijan gets past the Chargers, let's pick the Giants, assuming the Giants are not going to take him, right? You try to leapfrog Dallas because Dallas might actually be in a position to take a running back. I know Corey might disagree, but let's just play the scenario out where, in theory, Dallas could be in the market for a running back. You could leverage a pick swap and a future first or and your second to try to move up to get Bijan. Let's see. Alex, I will disagree. Alex has been strong on Levis, so she has been on point, rocking with Levis. Joshua, it seems strange why Baltimore would let Lamar spend house money on OBJ only to try to replace him. Well, that's just the nature of the game. It's a business, right? To make business work this year, they needed to provide him help. It would also behoove them to prepare for life without Lamar if they're going down this Kirk Cousins rabbit hole of 2 years of franchise tags and then Lamar walks. So it's business for everyone. Lamar wants his money. They're not going to give him his money. Okay, well then give me the pieces I need so that when I walk away from here, I can really go get the money that I feel I deserve. So help me now so you can help yourselves later. People saying Anthony Richardson has accuracy issues that didn't stop teams from going after Josh Allen, who only completed 56% coming out of college. No, I agree. That's why I'm like, the fact that people are saying he's not a first rounder, I can't rock with that. There's too much there in the pro column for me to look past the few things that are there in the con column. But, all right. Let me see. There's a few because I will be wrapping up. I'll go to 5:45 Eastern, so I'll go like another half an hour. I have to make a move tonight. I have an event to go to, a screening. So let's see. Do we want to get to the Saudis and the funny money? Trying to buy the Washington football team with funny money from the Saudis? Let's see. Let me hit the chat one more time, though. Alex is making good points about Levis. I stopped fighting Alex on Will Levis, so I'm just gonna let her cook. HD, if I'm the Chiefs, I would give up the second and the first next year and picks off of Bijan to get, yeah, man. I think that's really something that's feasible. I think these teams at the bottom, if they see Bijan there, there's going to be a mad dash to try to get Bijan. What if we put Bijan with Burrow and Chase and T. Higgins and all of them? Now, they have a need at tight end. So I could, in theory, see them maybe not doing it. But if Bijan is there with all the stuff that Mixon got into, and I think he's been absolved of some of that, but just in theory, Mixon ain't going to be that guy forever. And why not? You just lost Piron. All right, we're getting racy in the chat. I think there's some things we can't really go too crazy on in regards to race. We don't have to get racy. Y'all know I will call out race if I see it. That's one thing y'all will get from me. I'm not afraid to speak on that. Sometimes I think it's easy to think something is that. I don't think it's that all the time. But I will not hesitate to let y'all know. Like the whole thing, the video I did that is still my most highly viewed video is me saying that the NFL is colluding against Lamar Jackson. I definitely mentioned race in that aspect. But I don't know if the Will Levis thing is race. Because again, I'll reference the Cam Newton draft. The Cam Newton draft, we had Jake Locker and Blake Bortles along with Cam Newton, and there were experts really having a hard time figuring out who was the best QB coming out that year. That to me was race. Will Levis has never been, unless I missed something, Will Levis has never been leveraged against Bryce Young and CJ Stroud and has come out the victor. We've only been comparing Will Levis to Anthony Richardson. I haven't seen anyone say, I would take Will Levis over Bryce Young, or I would take Will Levis over CJ Stroud. So the fact that Will Levis is being put in that second tier with Anthony Richardson, I don't think that has anything to do with race. I just think people are settling with the fact that he's not as good, allegedly, as Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. So if anything, that's progress racially, which we know is rare in the NFL. But in theory, the fact that we have two black quarterbacks, and then a third if we bring in Anthony Richardson, and a white one in Will Levis, and that no one is trying to say the white quarterback is better than all of them, like they have done in the past, I think that's a sign that they just know Will Levis ain't that. He's a good quarterback. He could be a first-round quarterback, but he's not, according to the experts, according to the analysts, according to the trainers, the scouts, who, let's be clear, are majority white. They're even saying, nah, dog, Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, then them other guys. So to me, that actually is a sliver, the most minute point of progress. Because there was a time when Cam Newton, Blake Bortles, and Jake Locker were all on the cover of Sports Illustrated, and there was real debate going on about who was better. So please believe, if it's race, I will say it. I got no issues. I got time, okay? But when I don't feel it's race, I am not going to jump out the window and just make something race. And not to say that Boogie Down or whoever is saying it's race is wrong. I'm just saying from my POV, it's not race. Let's see. Bijan makes Cincy scared. I know, that's what I'm saying, right? Like, any of these teams at the bottom, why wouldn't they do it? If he's still available, like the fact that he falls to Buffalo, why wouldn't any of these teams here try to leapfrog Buffalo? I think the leapfrog low-key would start at the Vikings, because Dalvin Cook might get released. Josh was saying the Saudis need to stay out of American football. All right, well, let me just pivot to that story because I do think that story is really fascinating. We touched on it the other day, Friday, actually. It was a Friday news dump, and it was reported by Darren Haynes, who's a reporter, journalist, broadcaster out of D.C., and he reported that there was a $7 billion all-cash bid put in March that Daniel Snyder was actually considering. And Brian Davis, which is a former Duke Blue Devil back in the day, he was there with Grant Hill, Bobby Hurley, and Christian Laettner. So he has some credibility. He is from the DC area. He has invested a lot of money into tech, into agriculture, and he has built a fortune. And he has partnered with other people to amass that fortune. So when the alleged agreement came out that the Commanders were going to be sold for $6 billion, when this report came out, there was like a red flag to me, like, well, wait a minute. There's more money? Daniel Snyder's leaving $1 billion on the table? Since when do you know a billionaire leaving $1 billion on the table? So some ain't right. That's what I was saying Friday. Like why isn't Schefter, Rappaport, Mortensen, all the usual blue check boys and girls, Diana Rossini, why aren't they, Jostina Anderson, why aren't any of them coming out here and corroborating this story? Well, part of it could be that back in the day, I believe around 2012, Christian Laettner and Brian Davis tried to buy the Memphis Grizzlies. Or were they the Vancouver Grizzlies? No, they were the Memphis Grizzlies, I believe. They were already in Memphis. They tried to buy the team. Here's the problem. They didn't have the money. Kind of important when you're trying to buy a team, right? Like they put a group together, they submitted a proposal, and when it came time to show the financials, we don't got it. Huh? So when Brian Davis spins the block about a decade later, and at that time it was like 300 million, now we're talking 7 billion straight cash, homie. So it's like, well, wait a minute. You didn't have 300 M's a decade ago. You so up now that you got 7 B's? So reporting has been done, and while the bid is legit, while the paperwork is right, and while, as you see here in this headline, the billions that back it are clean, when they traced where the funds have come from, it's coming from the Saudis. Allegedly. Let me just put that out there. I'm not the one doing the reporting, but there has been enough reporting to find out where the true source of the funds come from. So Brian Davis' $7 billion bid for the Washington Commanders was quickly dismissed by most. Sources close to the former Duke basketball player say that the bid is real and the billions that back it are clean. I trace where the funds have come from. This is by AJ Perez. So there's a reply to his own thread. There's a little thread here. I asked a lot of questions to those in Brian Davis' camp. Got some answers, but not many details who is providing the funds for the $7 billion bid. Here's a quote from the story. It doesn't appear to be an issue for those who it matters most to, Snyder and the league. Now, I think, do I have time? It's already 5:30. All right, so I'll make this quick. I'll see if I can find it real quick. No pop-ups, no pop-ups. All right. Okay. The other source outside of Davis' inner circle said that those involved in the process believe the true source of the funds is Saudi Arabia, which has used sports, including Live Golf, to attempt to alter the image of the oil-rich nation that has faced international condemnation over human rights abuses. It's been vetted, a source close to Davis said. They're unencumbered and they're clean. Okay? So, but there's people that are disputing the money. There are other parts of the process that don't feel Davis' bid is real. It must be a typo, quote unquote. They probably meant 7,000. So again, that's a reference to the fact that they tried to buy, him and Leitner tried to buy the Grizz all them years ago, and they came up short on the funds. So there's a lot there. See, this is why I don't like clicking on these sites to give you the crazy pop-ups. Let's get off that. All right, so at least we were able to get the most important information and get off there. So, yeah, funny money, $7 billion. And I think the thing that I brought up on Friday still resonates today. If this bid is legit, if they can get the funds, the only caveat to stopping this deal is the fact that it's the Saudis. But how can you tell Daniel Snyder you cannot accept $7 billion cash for your team that's been valued at 5.6? I'm supposed to walk away from 1.4 billion just because of where it come from? How many billionaires do you know that didn't acquire those billions through nefarious means? Now, there's levels to it, obviously. But if we start to go back and find out where these billionaires, didn't Jerry Jones get his money from oil? And we saw Jerry on them steps in Little Rock, right? But the Saudis got the same oil. It might have some problematic viewpoints in terms of human rights. I'm just gonna leave that right there because I have to wrap up soon. But I'll leave it right there. But if you follow that, then yeah, okay. All right, let me catch up to the chat. HD. Man, look, hey, yo, HD, like, it's a real thing, dogs. It's a real thing. It's a real deal thing. Joshua, ESPN produces fake news. Yes, but that's not where this story came from. Unless you're saying the Saudi piece. I don't know which piece of this you're saying is fake news. HD, the NFL wants somebody to get control. Yeah, from the players on down. And that's why the owners have so much toxic workplace environments because of that same mentality. And Washington is one of those. So again, we're worried about where the Saudis get their money from, but Daniel Snyder is literally being asked to come to Congress for a toxic workplace environment that also violates human rights, like humans' rights. So while the Saudis may be taking their version of human rights to a worse level, Daniel Snyder is literally being investigated, and Congress wants the reports of those investigations to figure out why the hell is he in charge of such a toxic workplace environment, and why is he scheming money off the top. Again, I understand the Saudis, what they do is worse. So I get it. I'm saying, why is the NFL acting like all of their owners are so clean? The only reason why Snyder is selling this team is because he's not a clean owner. He doesn't want to sell this team. He is being bullied into selling this team. And I know it sounds weird. Someone is being bullied into accepting $6 billion. He's being bullied into accepting $6 million because if he hangs on for another 5 to 10 years, it'll be worth probably $10 billion. So he's being bullied to get out now because of the dirty things that he is doing, allegedly. So, I don't know, man. It's just, it's a lot there. I don't have the time today, but for sure tomorrow, we can touch on this again. Yeah. So let me check the timeline. I will not have time to get into the NBA playoffs, so we will save the habitual nut hitter stuff for tomorrow as well. Let me see. Let me move this around a little bit. See if there's any tea, any fresh tea that we can communicate on. Let's see. I don't know. Well, let's see. Here's a little quote. Browns QB Deshaun Watson said when he congratulated Jalen Hurts on his contract that dinner is on Hurts next time he's in Philly. Hurts agreed. The two trained together and are friends. Watson said he paid for dinner last year when the Eagles were in Cleveland. Quote, he deserves every penny. It's $230 million fully guaranteed. Every dinner's on Deshaun Watson. If it was me, though. Let's see. We'll do some of the quicker stuff since we won't have time to get into the deeper stuff. Pause. Let's see. We got the Steelers trading for Allen Robinson. So they essentially flipped Chase Claypool or moved on from Chase Claypool, and they're spinning the block on Allen Robinson, who looked clearly done as a Ram. So if you look at it in the end here, the Steelers get Allen Robinson and a 7th rounder. The Rams just get a 7th rounder, basically a throwaway. And the Rams will pay $10.25 million of Robinson's salary. The Steelers will pay the remaining $5 million. So in the end, to wrap it all up, the Rams will have paid Allen Robinson almost $26 million in cash for one season of 33 catches, 339 yards, and 3 touchdowns. McVay could be in the booth. Aaron Donald could have retired. Yet they both come back, and that team looks to be awful. That roster looks to be awful. I don't know why the hell either one of them came back to keep it a buck with you. Let's see what else we could find. Yeah, it's looking a little slow. So this might actually be a nice up. Panthers deny draft rumor about Bryce Young. Hang on. I won't play the sound, but don't want to play that. Copyright. It says the team has not communicated to Young that he is the number 1 pick. Again, that could be smoke, but that is a thing. So it's a lot. It's a lot going on. It's a lot going on with that, but I don't know. I don't know how much of this we can actually take into account. So come off of that. One last thing before I jump up out of here. Charles Barkley has opinions on Lamar Jackson. I will save that. That'll be tomorrow for sure. Yeah, I think that's it. All right. I got to make a run, so I will bounce up out of here. I appreciate those who have pulled up. I appreciate those who are engaging in the chat. Always enjoy that. That's one of my favorite parts of this show. So for the Sam D on Timeline T, I will be back here tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Another stream. We could probably go 2 hours or more if y'all want tomorrow. Just couldn't do it today. Got to make a run. So for Timeline T, I am the Sandy, a.k.a. Sandy Usme Jr. I'll catch y'all tomorrow. Peace.